ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वेशुभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर। Okay, today we'll discuss something on Anarthas. We will see how long we goes. It's a long presentation. Uh, Today we'll cover on lust. Likewise, we have seminars on envy, pride, greed, and I think maybe couple more. Okay. First, what is the cause? Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate Sanjat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Vijayate. The whole discussion will be on this subject matter. While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So, this is the only place in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna discusses about the cause of lust. And the cause is contemplation. Um, think about it, contemplate. Attachment develops, lust develops, unfulfilled turns into wrath, anger. Um, there is a story of Ajamil and Pandu. I mean, two stories. One is Ajamil, one is Pandu. We know the story of Ajamil. While he was coming, he saw the prostitute with loose clothes, enjoying with. She was drunk, and the man she was enjoying was also drunk. They were low born from their activities. Ajamil was a Brahman in moving in a spiritual direction, very sincere towards his duty, towards his parents, toward his family. But when he saw that scene, he was agitated. Now, what to speak about in this day and age? Situation is way more degraded. In fact, Sri Prabhupada said that in this day and age, everybody is a Ajamil. Prabhupada said that. So, but in that day and age, the culture was very refined. In fact, husband wife would sleep in different rooms, and they would live in a joint family. So to see a husband or to see a boy and girl together is like unheard of. And recently, I was so surprised. Um, I went to a place I mean, there was God Purnima. So you all are aware of it in the month of March. So I was in Mayapur. the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the next day, um, I wanted to visit some place I haven't been to. So I went to a place called Panihati. Now, some of you don't know the story of Panihati, but we will not discuss that story today. It is a story connected to Lord Nityananda. Um, and um, one 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 boy, his name was Raghunath Das Goswami. Later on, he became one of the associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wanted to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So um, he was trying very hard to receive mercy of Lord Chaitanya, but he was unable to. Um, he was from a very well-to-do family. Like it is said that his father was a crorepati or something like that, a jamindar, a builder. So he was very well-to-do family. He heard about Lord Chaitanya from his um, teacher, whose name was Yadunandanacharya. He heard about the glories of Lord Chaitanya. He wanted to see Lord Chaitanya. He wanted to be with Lord Chaitanya. He wanted to personally serve Lord Chaitanya. So um, he tried to run away from his house, but his father and mother, they had arranged many guards. So Raghunath Das Goswami cannot escape the home. So the home was like a jail for Raghunath Das Goswami. So um, mm, um, one time, um, Yadunandanacharya told that Nityananda Prabhu is coming to Panihati. Um, let's go and see him. So Yadunandanacharya was also the spiritual teacher of his father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami. So with the permission, his father sent Raghunath Das Goswami, the small child, under the care of Yadunandanacharya to go and meet Nityananda Prabhu. So he went to Panihati. So in Panihati, um, Nityananda Prabhu um, ordered Raghunath Das Goswami that you feed all the residents here with chida dahi. It's called chida dahi festival. You know chida? Chida is like poha. So you mixed curd with chida and some sugar and some fruits and some condensed milk. So you make a very nice preparation. It's called chida dahi. So Nityananda Prabhu made um, Raghunath Das Goswami to serve all the Vaishnavas there, and that helped him receive the blessing of Nityananda Prabhu and all the Vaishnavas. After that, it was so arranged that he was able to meet Lord Chaitanya and receive his blessings. Actually, he served Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for more than 18 years as a personal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. So it's a very divine pastime, and that shows the importance of serving Vaishnavas and how by serving Vaishnavas one received the mercy of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Another instructive um, um, lesson from this pastime is Raghunath Das Goswami was trying to approach Lord Chaitanya directly, but every time he tried to approach, some obstacles were coming on his way. He was not able to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then at one point of time, when Raghunath Das Goswami saw Nityananda Prabhu called him a cheater, signifying that this person is trying to approach Krishna directly without going through spiritual master. Nityananda Prabhu is Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is Adi Guru, the source of all spiritual master. So if we try to approach Krishna directly without going through spiritual master, our endeavor will not be successful. So this is another instructive lesson from this story that happened at Panihati. One is one can approach Krishna through Guru. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada says there will be a lot of obstacles and one will not be successful. And second is by serving Vaishnavas, Once when one receives the blessings of Vaishnavas, then he can then it's much easier to receive mercy of Krishna. So very instructive pastime. So I happened to go to this place of um, Panihati, and there was a tree, very ancient tree, under which tree Nityananda Prabhu sat, and he ordered Raghunath Das to arrange a festival, and he took his meal there. So very nice tree. And then I went under that tree and I started chanting my japa because this is the first time I was visiting Panihati. And then I saw boys and girls, at least like five, six pairs, one after the other. They are going in different corners of. It is on the bank of Ganga, so it's a very nice scenic beauty there, because the tree is right at the bank of Ganga. So I took bath in Ganga and then sat under a tree and trying to focus on this particular pastime. And then wherever I look, one boy and girl is sitting in one corner. I was like, wow, this is such a holy place, and there is this environment also. So this is so commonly visible in this day and age, because boys and girls are losing their shyness, um, which was it was such a cultured, there was such a beautiful culture. Uh, there was no public show of such affection between boys and girls. But now with this Western culture, so Prabhupada said practically everybody in this age of Kali is Ajamil. Ajamil, because there is no opportunity for such things, because the culture was so Vedic. And one one glance at the prostitute and um, this drunken men and drunken women, and he was agitated, and he started going back. Um, he remembered the instruction of his spiritual master. He know that this is the enemy, the all-devouring enemy, and he was trying not to think about it. And by trying not to think about it, by forcing not to think about it, he was inevitably thinking about it. And he thought. One day passed. He was with his wife. She was doing some household activities, and while at home, taking care of parents, taking care of kids. Somewhere in the background of the mind, that prostitute and low-born drunken men and women with loose clothes. And I think he saw something. Um, he just could not think anything beyond that. This contemplation of few days brought a strong attachment in him, and as attachment increases, weakness of the heart increases. Heart becomes more and more weak because of attachment. Then what happened? Um, he brought that prostitute in the house in the form of a maid servant, and later on, he sent his wife back to home, rejected his parents, and engaged in sinful activities with that prostitute. So the root cause is contemplation. Contemplation. Another story is Pandu. Now, some of you may know the story of Pandu, the father of Pandavas. So one time, um, um, Pandu saw a sage, one sage and his wife. It was a daytime and it was a forest. So they both sage and his wife, being Vedic, they desire to have a child. So that is perfectly bona fide. And they cannot mate in public because they are hermitages. They live in the forest. So they both took the form of a deer, and they both had affection for each other in a very Vedic way. So they both took a form of a deer, and they were, when animals can do that, but humans have these Vedic laws, but animals don't have such Vedic laws. So that's why they were mystical people. They became deer, and they were mating to for the ceremony of giving birth to a child. And this Maharaj Pandu, he was a king. He went out of the forest and he was shooting arrows. You know, they go for hunting, and he shot an arrow at the heron, the deer, and the deer died. And this his wife was in great pain. She again came back to her form of a lady hermitage, and she was very angry because I mean their husband wife, and she saw Pandu as a cause for it. So she cursed Pandu that just like when we were desiring to have a child, you interrupted and you killed my husband. Now Pandu was also thinking that what is my fault because kings would go for hunting during that time. But nonetheless, destiny was arranged in this way for King Pandu. Otherwise, he was a very dharmic person. So this hermitage lady, this saintly lady, because of her saintly character, she had um, spiritual strength. So based on that, she cursed King Pandu that whenever you mate with your wife, because when we were trying to beget a child, you interrupted and killed my husband. Whenever, if ever, whenever you try to mate with your wife, you will die. So King Pandu had two wives, but he had no children. One was Madari and one was Kunti. And King Pandu thought that the kingly environment and the food and the opulence and the respect is there is lot of passion in the environment in taking care and being the king. So being in this environment, I will not be able to control my desires and emotions. So let me live alone in a because he knew that death is certain in this way if he tries to mate. So he went to the forest. He left the kingly and he went to the forest to live in an environment in modern goodness. And they had a very good understanding. Both his wives are aware of the curse. Madari and Kunti were aware of the curse. Um, Nonetheless, King Pandu had a desire for children. But how can he have children? Because he will die if he has children. So Kunti said, well, I have a benediction. Um, um, that I can call for sun god and Indra and Vayu and everybody and get children. So Arjuna, Bhim, Yudhishthir Maharaj, and she gave that mantra to Madari and from Ashwini Kumaras, Nakul Sahdev. So these five brothers were born. So Pandu was very happy with these children. Um, but there was no mating because Pandu cannot mate because he was cursed. One night, one night, because I mean he was living with them, so naturally there was a lot of contemplation. One night he could not control his emotions, but Madari and Kunti had among themselves a um, a, a vow that we will never mate with our husband because we don't want him to die. We want his association. Everything was going fine, but Madari also could not tolerate. And one night they engaged in a mating affair and the king died. And Kunti was very sad and Madhuri was also very sad. Why did I do that? Why? So this is the effect of contemplation. It is even for us saintly man like Maharaj Pandu, it was so difficult. So Krishna emphasizes on contemplation. Contemplation of the object of the senses develops attachment, and then from attachment lust develops, and when there is such a desire and it is unfulfilled, give rise to anger. That time Madhuri said that one of us should stay, but I cannot stay without Maharaj Pandu. Plus, I was the cause of his death. So Madhuri entered Sati, and Kunti Devi stayed and took care of Madhuri's son, two sons also. So she was considered as a mother of five, although three were her sons. and throughout the life she took care of them. And we know so many things. She went back and um, yeah. So contemplation is the cause. Now, who is influenced by the effects of lust? Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Kama Isha Krodha Isha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapa Vidyena Miha Vaidina. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion. What is the root cause of lust? Material mode of passion, three modes. Mode of passion is lust, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all devouring sinful enemy of this world. Those who are living in mode of goodness, they will not be influenced by this lusty desires. How to overcome lusty desires is we have to go from mode of passion to mode of goodness. If you go to mode of goodness, these desires will not impact you. Now, um, there is a story of Kardama Muni. Um, some of you may not have heard about Kardama Muni. This comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Kardama Muni was a sage. Um, when he was doing his austerities, Lord Vishnu appeared to him. I mean, we are chanting, we are doing so much devotional service. We never saw Krishna. But I mean, at least I never saw Krishna. I never received darshan of Krishna. So, Kardama Muni, his practice was so intense that he actually saw Narayan. He was a worshipper of Narayan. He saw Narayan, and Kardama Muni still had one desire. And he told Narayan that your devotees don't ask you for anything other than devotional service to you. But I have one desire, my Lord. I want to get married, and that's all. So, Lord Narayan, already sitting in the heart of Kardama Muni, and he said, well, I am already aware of your desire. Um, I have already arranged marriage for you. And because I am so pleased with your devotional service, I myself will appear as your son. Um, then, of course, Narad Muni is a pure devotee of Lord Narayan also. So Narad Muni went to Manu. Who is Manu? Manu is this Manu, father of mankind, son of Brahma, Manu. Um, he was the ruler of the entire Earth planet, entire kingdom. So Manu daughter was Devahuti, and Narad Muni went to Manu, and with the proposal of marriage of Devahuti with Kardama Muni. So this marriage proposals were made even by a sannyasi like Narad Muni. Prabhupada also used to do that for his disciples many times. So Narad Muni went and with a proposal of Devahuti for Kardama Muni. And he described all the glories of Kardama Muni, and Devahuti was very attractive. Devahuti was also very, very beautiful girl. It is described in Srimad Bhagavatam when Devahuti was playing with the ball. You know, sometimes girls they like to play with balls. So she was on the roof of her palace and she was playing with balls. And the demigods were flying in the airplane on the top. And when they saw Devahuti playing with the ball, they were so attracted that they fell down from the airplane. These demigods, they have association of apsaras and other beautiful ladies in the heavenly planet. But when they saw the beauty of Devahuti, they were bewildered. So it is described that much beautiful Devahuti was. Um, and Narad Muni um, told Manu that why don't you go with the proposal? And there Narayan appeared to Kardama Muni, and it is said that a drop of tear fell from Lord Narayan by seeing the severe austerities and penances and devotion of Kardama Muni. That drop of tear from the eye of Narayan formed a lake, and that lake is called Bindu Sarovar. And that lake is still existing today. I have not been there though. Um, and Narayan told Kardama Muni, 3 days from now, Manu will come with his daughter Devahuti with a marriage proposal. Mm. accept that proposal. And from you and Devahuti, I will appear as the son after few daughters. And then Narayan disappeared. Exactly 3 days later, as Lord Narayan informed, Manu came with Devahuti. And Manu didn't know that Kardama Muni already is aware. So he told Kardama Muni that we have heard about your glories from sage Narada. I have come with the proposal of my daughter for you. Kardama Muni knew everything, but he did not say that, yeah, Narayan appeared to me and he told me. You know, they don't have the propensity to show their devotion. So Kardama Muni said, it's my great fortune to take care of your daughter, of yourself being a pure devotee of the Lord. Manu was a pure devotee himself, and I will be fortunate to accept this proposal. So Kardama Muni and Devahuti got married. Now, Kardama Muni was living in a small hut. He is a hermitage. He is a sage, living in a small hut. Manu was living in a big palace. Nowadays, people look for their marriage and they think of how much the person earns, and other factors, other external factors. But in previous time, the parents would look for their girl a saintly person. Kardama Muni had no such income for himself, and he was just a sage. And Devahuti was living in a palace, and she had no problem living in a hut with Kardama Muni. Um, so that was the Vedic culture. This is like millions of years back. This is Satya Yoga story. But Kardama Muni, so it is described that Devahuti started serving, although now we discussed the beauty of Devahuti. How beautiful was Devahuti? Kardama Muni, uh, this story is discussed especially in Grahasthashram seminar. Kardama Muni was living with such a beautiful daughter of Manu. Um, she was kind of, um, 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 coming from very modern amenities from her palaces, and she engaged in humble service to Kardama Muni. Um, it is said that year after year passed, and Kardama Muni and Devahuti never tried for a child. Year after year, she just kept on serving the husband. For how long? It is described for a very long time, and she became so absorbed in serving her husband without any desire, um, that her skin color became pale, her hairs became matted with dust because they're living in hermitage, sleeping on the ground. Their lifestyle was like that. So, um, and how they would take bath is get into the pond, which also has so much mud. So her hairs were grown, and she had all mud in her hairs, and her figure was discolored, her body emaciated, and all her beauty was even lost. To that extent, Devahuti served Kardama Muni. And Kardama Muni had no problem seeing how beautiful she was before, how unbeautiful she is now, because the relationship was on a spiritual platform. Kardama Muni was a self realized soul, but he just wanted a companionship, to continue his service, somebody who can also serve him so that he can continue his service to Narayan. After many, many years passed, without desire, they were living a very Krishna conscious life. And at some point of time, naturally, mother has a desire to have a child. So Devahuti asked Kardama Muni, um, can I have a child? And Kardama Muni was very pleased. And Kardama Muni said, well, I will give you a child because you have served so nicely. I will give you a child. The reason in the previous age, in the Vedic culture, um, the parents would look for a, a saintly husband, because the seminal force is there when there is seminal force, then the progeny will be very good character. Like the father, the progeny will be born. So for a good progeny, they would also choose first the daughter will go back home, back to Godhead. Second, the progeny will also be a devotee of the Lord, and they will also further take the parents back home, back to Godhead, because the goal was clear of this ashram to go back home, back to Godhead. But Kadama Muni is in transcendental mode. Kadama Muni does not have passion. He is free from mode of passion. That's why when he saw the beauty of Devahuti, he was not attracted, and he had no desire. And it is described that for Kardama Muni to perform the act of performing a child, Kardama Muni, by his mystical power, he created an airplane because he was very accomplished soul, so he had many mystical powers. That airplane has thousands of maid servants, many palaces. They can even freely there are gardens, there are lakes. So what kind of airplane he created with this mystical power, it's unimaginable. So the whole city was inside those that airplane. Um, and they all the thousand maid servants would serve Kadava Muni. So Kadava Muni told Devahuti that you go and take bath in Bindu Sarovar. So, because of the mystical power of Kadava Muni, as soon as Devahuti entered into the lake, many maid servants appeared within the lake, underneath water, and they combed her, they dressed her, and they did some kind of, shringar on her. And when she came out of the lake, her whole body figure was restored to her original beauty. Um, she became very bright and beautiful, um, and very neat and clean, very well presented. And so many maid servants helped her dress within the water. So when she came out and she looked her reflection into the water, she became very pleased. So Kardama Muni did all these things just to for him to induce passion in him so that he can perform the act of giving rise to a child. And they landed into the airplane, which is like with lakes and scenic beauties and nice breeze. Um, and they went into Gandhana Madana mountains, where demigods come for some sort of pleasure. So the environment of that Gandhana Madan mountain is also surcharged with passion. So, and that flight in the airplane and environment. So much arrangement Kadava Muni made by his mystical power just to beget a child. So why I shared such detail of this Bhagavatam story? Unless if we practice devotional service, how do we overcome? The solution lies in devotional service. We cannot overcome by tolerating it. Well, by tolerating, we can avoid for some time, but we cannot become pure by tolerating. We cannot remove the desire just by tolerating, but it will go only by devotional service, because devotional service will bring us to mode of goodness. I have witnessed from my own eyes people who are very passionate or very active or many desires. After few years of sincere devotional service, goodness appears in their heart. Goodness appears. Many times the children are very hyperactive and they have lot of passion and ignorance in them, which comes from their previous life. So Ramapad Maharaj says that if you try to give this child Krishna, this child will come to mode of goodness if he becomes Krishna conscious. To the extent he becomes Krishna conscious, that much sooner he will come to mode of goodness. Once he come to mode of goodness, he will not create troubles for you. But if you don't give him Krishna, then he will act in passion and ignorance. By that passion and ignorance, he will create so many troubles for you. And your lot of energy will go in solving the troubles created by your child because of his passion and ignorance. Rather than tolerating the trouble that the child creates and working on them, why don't you put some energy in giving your child Krishna? because if he gets Krishna, then naturally he will come out of it. So by becoming Krishna conscious, we saw in 14th chapter Bhagavad Gita, one becomes one goes beyond the moods. Mayam mayam maya tiram tarantite. Something like that. That taranti means you go beyond the moods. So it is born from material mode of passion. This desire for lust and such desires arise from mode of passion. It is a all and later transform into wrath. Passion further degrades into ignorance, which is wrath, anger, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Every living entity in this world, it is called um, shackles of sex life. Shackle means bondage of sex life. What it does to us, it keeps us in this material existence birth after birth. That's why this is called a prison house without bars. Usually if you go to prison house, I mean, I'm sure none of you have gone to prison house. There are bars. You cannot go out of prison house. But this material world is a prison house without bars. And what are the bars in this material world? Shackles of sex life. Like, it binds you. It binds you. So Prabhupada said, if you're free from not just sex life, the desire for sex life. Prabhupada said, if you're free from desire for sex life, Prabhupada said, you're 50% liberated. 50% liberated. Wow. You should just become free from desire for sex life. So this is called shackle of material existence. Everyone wants to stay in this material world. Why one wants to stay in this material world? Shackles of sex life, Prabhupada said. Um, so by one's own desire, one want to continue into disease, into death, into old age. One is willing to go through so many troubles in life just because of shackles of sex life. So Krishna says, all devouring enemy, all devouring sinful enemy of this world. Um, uh, Something very astounding. In this material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planet, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. Um, Srimad Bhagavatam describes even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are not free of it. Can you believe that? I mean, there are stories. Here is one such story, is subjected to the influence of sense object. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal and as a result Kartikeya was born. So Parvati induced Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva succumbed and Kartikeya was born. There is also a story of Lord Brahma. Uh, um, we should see these for the sake of pastime, for the sake of learning, but we should not find fault in Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. But at the same time, there is a lesson that we can learn, that how difficult it is to overcome this desire. And there is a story of Lord Brahma. From his own body, a daughter was created. Her name was Vak. And when Brahma saw her own daughter, he became attracted and he started running behind her. Um, and his own sons were like, Father, how can you do like that? um, and Brahma gave up his subtle body, that misconception, and Brahma is like, different platform. He's a pure devotee of the Lord, so he gave up that misconception and take on a new subtle body, which was free from that misconception. So no one is barred from uh, other than pure devotees of the Lord. Of course, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are pure devotees, but just take the lesson and don't find fault. In fact, there is a story of the six sons of Brahma. They themselves found fault in Brahma when he ran behind her daughter. So Brahma cursed them to become demons. And in the next life, those six sons were born to Kalanemi, the son of demons. And later on, again, those six sons were born to Devaki and killed by King Kamsa. Kamsa killed by King Kamsa. So those were the same six sons. So we should not find fault in such great personalities. Yet the lesson we should take how difficult it is to overcome this all sinful desire enemy. Who is influenced by the effect of lust? One who is influenced by effects of lust. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. If one is not Krishna conscious, he may be very powerful in controlling his senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense gratification will agitate him to gratify his senses. Only people who are practicing Krishna consciousness very sincerely, you will see they will have the strength not to give in to these desires. They will have the strength. If others who are not sincerely practicing Krishna consciousness, you see devotees, their life is very pure. How is it possible for them to live such a pure life on the basis of their own Krishna consciousness? Others, they may act very saintly, they may show themselves as very saintly, but inside deep corner of their heart, they will have all these desires. And at some point of time, they will fail. 110% they will fail. Nobody can overcome the forces of material nature unless one is practicing Krishna consciousness very sincerely. Prabhupada said, is sure to fail, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense gratification will agitate him to gratify his desires. Slightest thought. One thought may come in the mind and the mind will become agitated. So this is the nature of one's conditioning. Um, um, all devouring sinful enemy. Actually, it is because of these impurities in the heart that one lack attraction for Krishna. And to the extent one sincerely practices Krishna consciousness, these desires will be reduced to a very insignificant amount. To the extent the heart becomes to purify, heart becomes to start being purified. To the extent heart becomes purified, attraction to Krishna will develop. Krishna will pull you towards him. Krishna is all attractive. But the price we have to pay to for Krishna to attract us towards him is we have to be very sincere in our practice of Krishna consciousness, and we have to be willing to renounce the material pleasures. Sense gratification and Krishna consciousness goes ill together. At some point of time we have to choose, do I want sense gratification or do I want Krishna? It begins with faith that will Krishna make me happy or will sense gratification make me happy? Sense gratification is not going to make us happy. One need to have that realization. If my spiritual master says if sex life is the highest pleasure in this material world, the prostitutes would have been the happiest people on the planet. They have sex life every day. If that is the highest pleasure in this world, that is the highest material pleasure, correct? But it is insignificant in compared to bhakti rasa. Bhakti rasa. If that was not, if these desires can actually make us happy, the prostitute would have been the happiest people. They are miserable. The whole world is running behind these desires. They are miserable. Who are relatively happy are all of you who are practicing Krishna consciousness. You are relatively happier. Why I'm saying relatively happier? Because you will become completely happy when we actually become fully Krishna conscious. And it takes time. It takes patience. It takes determination. It takes faith. Till that time, we will keep struggling with these desires birth after birth. Depending upon how sincerely we practice Krishna consciousness, we can come out of this. And there is image you see on the starting from the top. There is a boy, and he saw a girl walking by the lakeside, and just by seeing her, he became agitated. He became attracted, and she also, when he saw him. His beauty, he became attracted. Then you go down the second one, and they met each other. And then, as they were talking, that um, attachment by further contemplation grew, and then they both kind of united. And in the fourth picture, the husband came to know, and he created his wife life into a hell. And um, mm, this person was in so much stress and anxiety. And in the fifth last picture, this husband and the paramour, they had a fight, they killed each other, and end of life. So self-explanatory. you know Previously I used to saw movies before I came to Krishna consciousness. There are so many movies made on these themes, that how this thing lead to suffering. But somehow till we came to Krishna consciousness, I never learned. I thought there is actually happiness in this material world, and these are the form of happiness that exists in this material world. Krishna consciousness give us realization. Spiritual practices give us realizations. Um, Actually, we ourselves cannot do anything. Krishna has to purify our heart. We just have to render devotional service to Krishna, and one by one, you will be very greatly um, indebted to Krishna, that what Krishna is doing to you and how Krishna is helping you take forward. And then if you say, what did I do? I did not do anything. I just chanted my rounds and I rendered some little seva here and there. And it's a natural process. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jeevanam Anandambuddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. These are the seven effects of Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. The first effect is Chetodarpanamarjanam. The heart will be cleansed. How? It's a automatic process, Prabhupada would say. It will automatically happen without any endeavor from your side. And Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. This Mahadavagni is the heart burning with lusty desires, envy towards others, anger. The heart is burning, scorching with these. They are called forest fire within the heart, like a fire, and the passion is burning like a fire. So nirvapana, that fire is extinguished. Then only you will feel peace in your heart. Otherwise, we will feel peace here and there, but it will go away. Why? The heart will start burning again. I want to enjoy. The heart will start burning again. So after um, um, Bhava Maha Davag Nivapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Then Chandrama will come. uh, the moon will come. The cooling effect of the moon. The heart is burning with passionate desires, and then it is cooled by the cooling rays of the moon, and that gives such a feeling of solace to the heart. Then only peace will come. Otherwise, how will it come? We may come to temple because the environment has devotion. By tasting the devotion, we will feel some peace in our heart. But once we go out, the burning passion will start again and make us run to fulfill so many material desires in terms of wealth, trying to impress women, um, looking for fame and prestige. And the heart is burning with these desires and make us keep running in this material world. Um, so we have to develop strength within us so we can create peace within our heart. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. That can appear, that divinity can appear within our heart. We want to work in that direction, that we become saintly. We become saintly. That will automatically happen by practice of Krishna consciousness. Indriyani manobuddhir ashyadeshthanamochyate etervimohayati esha jnanam avrityadehinam. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting place of this lust. The lust is there in the senses, in the eyes, in the nose, in the tongue. They all want to enjoy lust. In the ears and in the sense of touch. So lust is there in the senses, it is there in the mind. The mind, just a thought comes in the mind and mind will agitate the body. So it's there in the mind. And then it's there in the intelligence. Intelligence is constantly thinking how to fulfill the desire of the mind and senses. The mind and senses are like howling, like like a hungry dog. When the dog is hungry, whoo, whoo, he starts howling. Likewise, the mind and senses are howling. Um, because why they are howling? The passion is burning in the heart. So mind and senses are howling, and the intelligence is constantly trying to pacify them by putting some fuel into the fire. So the senses, mind, and intelligence are the setting place of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders them. Lust covers the real knowledge. When lusty desire attack, then who cares for Krishna? Where is Krishna? I don't care about Krishna. This passion, this passion throw all the knowledge out of the window. Throw all the realization I am not this body out of the window. Throw all the realization that I am not the enjoyer, I am servant of Krishna out of the window. And the only thing that remains is passion. Burning forest fire of passion. I want to fulfill my desires. So it covers the real knowledge of the living entity, and the living entity becomes bewildered. Krishna says, na, uh, uh, intelligence is lost, memory is bewildered, and one falls down. That's the anatomy of fall down. When we hear about sense gratification, the mind gradually becomes a reservoir of all ideas sense gratification. Just the thought of a sense, just when we hear about sense gratification, the mind key starts connecting the images from one to another, and mind becomes the reservoir. That shows that we have such kind of spontaneous attraction towards sense gratification. Such spontaneous. This is not just theory. This is practical. We are seeing it in our life. So mind becomes a reservoir of all the ideas of sense gratification just by hearing about sense object. And as a result, the mind and senses become the repositories of lust. Then next intelligence is captured. So this is called entanglement. Entanglement of material existence. So there are like hundreds and millions of ropes that are entangling us and binding us to this material world. And we are in a hopeless situation to become liberated. It is not easy to liberate oneself. To liberate oneself means um, um, Vinirmukta, Vinirmukta, like completely free from this, all these shackles, all these ropes, hidden subtle ropes. So that happens, although we may be fully entangled, that happens when we call out Krishna's name. Then the hard knot, Hriday Granthi, they start to become loosened. It happens gradually over a period of time, automatically. Um, this is something Shrimad Bhagavatam. Actually, I really request all of you to read Shrimad Bhagavatam. I'm quite positive many of you are reading because many things that Shrimad Bhagavatam writes, it's so open and we will not be able to discuss because um, Bhagavatam is just so open. So you will be able to gain that treasure and you will be able to convert your life into saintliness and improve it just by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. I know one devotee, Grand Rapids. He started reading Bhagavatam 2.5, 3 years back. Every day he would read. Very sincere devotee. Chants 24 rounds every day. And then yesterday I was talking to him and I asked him, Prabhu, where are in your Bhagavatam? He said, Prabhu, I'm about to finish ninth canto. And I go, wow. He said, Prabhu, I just desiring to come to 10th canto now and hear everything about Krishna. I said, Prabhu, great. Congratulations. Within 2.5 years, he finished 9 cantos. Just a matter of sincerity. He has 2 kids. Both are very, very young kids, 5 years, 7 years, like that. Their education, um, and lot of things that happens in his home. Very busy, in a very responsible position in his office. But no matter what, he gets up at 4 a.m. He finished 24 rounds by 6:37, and every day 1.5 hours he read Bhagavatam. And he has deities. He bathes the deities and he take care of deities. And I said, "Oh, looks like you will go back to Godhead in this lifetime if you can continue this schedule and this sincerity. You will please not even initiate it, but sincere, sincere. Um, what attracts Krishna is our sincerity. It's just a Srila Prabhupada said you can become a pure devotee in a moment. एक एक मिनट भी नहीं लगता भगवान का शुद्ध भक्त बनने में. Prabhupada used to say. He said you just have to desire. Okay, that's what I want to do now. I want to serve Krishna. I'm eager to serve Krishna. If anybody realizes and understands the benefit of serving Krishna, he'll become mad after serving Krishna. But most of the time, um, that realization has not come yet. So our advancement is based on our faith, how much faith we have developed. Accordingly, our activities in Krishna consciousness corresponds to our faith. But this is something very nice verse in Bhagavatam. Sometimes as if blinded by the dust of a whirlwind. You know, a whirlwind, like like a tornado and filled with dust. So when a whirlwind comes, I don't know if you have seen, like we call it Andhi Tufan. India mein we say Andhi Tufan. So it's all the dust flowing all over. So there may be your car is right in front of you. You cannot see your car also because there is so much dust in the environment. So as if blinded by the dust of whirlwind, a conditioned soul sees the beauty of opposite sex, which is called pramada. Pramada. Pramada means madness. So when a living entity sees the beauty of opposite sex, his knowledge becomes blinded. He cannot think anything else. It's like he becomes spaced out. His thought process stops, and this is called pramada, madness. And all he can remember, he becomes completely infatuated by the beauty of the opposite sex. Being thus bewildered, he is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. So this is like very kind of graphical explanation. He is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. All that remains in his mind and in his senses is that calm vasana, and then he's completely infatuated and he's completely blinded, complete ignorance, and he completely forgets that I am not a bhokta, I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am trying to enjoy through the medium of this body and senses, they are temporary themselves. I am a spirit soul. It's only the ego that enjoys. Nothing remains. All that remains is sitting in the lap of a woman, and um, his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. He thus becomes almost blind with lusty desires and disobey the rules and regulations governing sex life. Doesn't care for anything else. He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by different demigods. Demigods are watching. He does not see that he's disobeying, disobedience to demigod. He enjoys illicit sex in the dead of a night not seeing the future punishment awaiting for him. If it is against regulative principles, then he does not see what is going to happen. So there is this particular story, uh, Kashyap Muni. There was a sage called Kashyap Muni, and um, his wife, Diti. So Kashyap Muni had two wives, Diti and Aditi. We know that from Kashyap Muni and Aditi, the demigods were born. Indra and Vaman Dev, um, and all the Vayu, Agni, they all the um, um, Astavasus, they were all born from Aditi and Kashyap Muni. So Kashyap Muni had another wife. Her name was Diti. This story also comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. So one time Diti was completely infatuated and blinded by the desire to unite with Kashyap Muni. And Kashyap Muni told her that, my dear wife, I will certainly fulfill your desire, but this is not the right time. It is a time of dusk, and at this time, the ghosts and homoglobins they cross by in the environment, the followers of Lord Shiva. This is not conducive for the act of giving birth to a child. And Diti said, I don't care, because blinded by that passionate desires. Finally, Kashyap Muni also let himself loose, and Kashyap Muni and Diti united. And then, after united, the passion naturally goes away, and they came back to the senses. And Kashyap Muni scolded Diti, and he said, you have made a great mistake. By being overcome by the force of passion, you were blinded, your knowledge was blinded, and you could not discriminate what is right, what is wrong, although you know what is right, what is wrong. You could not discriminate. Because of this act, the demons will take birth from your womb. And two sons were born from Diti, and they were Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. They were like the greatest demons of the time. We know Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, and um, um, Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha. So we know that. Um, my knowledge is also getting covered. So, nonetheless, this is what happens. One is completely overcome, the knowledge is lost, completely overcome by the mode of passion, and he disobeys the rules and regulations according to Vedic scriptures of how um, things should be done in the right way, and does not see the future punishment that awaits for him. So, lust is, Krishna says here, Krishna says in 3.40, through this lust, through them lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders them. It covers the living entity and not bewilders them, and they are completely kind of in another word of ignorance. And Krishna says, Mahajanma Mahapapma Vidyanam Iha Vaihana. It is the all devouring enemy which keeps us in the cycle of birth and death. Then what does Krishna says? He says this is a gateway to hell. Trividham Narakashyedam Dwaram Nashanam Atmana. Kama, Krodha तथा लोभस तस्माद एतत् त्रयम् त्यजेत. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. These are three gateways to hell. Every sane man should give this up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Now, greed is very difficult to overcome, and greed goes very very subtle, very subtle. Um, I was in Vrindavan, and I was with one family, and that family was hungry. know, it's natural to become hunger. And then um, this Mataji went with her son, and they went to buy something. There is a shop in Vrindavan. So they bought like four samosas and four kachoris and four rasgullas and four badam milk and and I don't know, few more items. So I was sitting in a car. We were going to They hired a car. We were going to see a holy place. So husband was driving, I was sitting in the front seat, and the family was sitting behind. So they brought like this much prasad, and I'm like, okay, Prabhuji, will you take something? I said, give me some badam milk. I will take my meal only later on. I don't want to eat anything. And then they start eating. After one samosa only, they were filled. These are like big samosas. There is a shop in Govardhan. Uh, it's called Govardhan Mishtan Bhandar. So devotees go and buy because the people who cook there are devotees, and they offer to Govardhan, and they have Jagannath deities. So devotees eat in this Govardhan Mishtan Bhandar. So this much big samosa, and they ate and they were full. And now there is kachori and there is dokla and there are like 7 8 items. So later on, I humbly told the family that Mataji, this was greed, greed. So greed is like let me get more and more, thinking that if I have everything, I will be satisfied. This greed is very subtle, and later on, it's just greed that pulls us. Like we really want to accumulate more and more. We want to accumulate more and more. Like we are taking prasadam. Suppose we go to a temple, we take prasadam and we fill so much prasadam that we cannot even eat because we have a greed that khatam na ho jaye, koi aur na kha le. So this greed, we will have another discussion on greed. It varies in all aspects. Again, it is mode of passion. Um, these are very subtle. It takes some time to even realize them. Whether it is accumulation of wealth or it is whatever any form over, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we will discuss Bhakti Aloka, nectar of instruction. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, over engaging the senses, any one of the senses, over engaging is unconducive for Krishna consciousness. Um, Unconducive. So Krishna says these are the three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give this up, or they lead to the degradation of the soul. The beginning of demoniac life is described herein. Purpose it is the beginning of demoniac life. Lust, anger, and greed. One tries to satisfy his lust. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these three enemies. Very difficult to overcome, but it is said that although crossing over this material existence, this ocean of material existence, it's compared like a huge ocean, and it's very difficult to cross over this huge ocean of material existence. But it is described that one who takes shelter of lotus feet of Krishna, for them this huge ocean becomes like water equivalent in the hoof print of a calf. First of all, calf is very small and they are very cute. They're very cute also. So calf foot, there is a small line. So how much water can be contained in that small line in the calf footprint? um, Few drops, calf footprint. Another explanation is, when a calf walk, so a little footprint is formed because very small legs. Her legs are pointed, very small legs. So if you fill in that footprint with water, few drops of water, and that's all. How difficult it is for us to cross over the the water contained in footprint of a cat. It's like you don't even care, you just keep walking by. So it is said that one who takes shelter of lotus feet of Krishna, the ocean of material existence, which is like lust, anger, greed, and there are like infinite obstacles for us to become Vinir Mukta, become purified in the heart. That ocean is reduced to the size of water contained hoofprint of a cat. In other words, it becomes very easy. By our own strength, we will realize I cannot cross over. I'm just, my life is just trying to fulfill the demands of lust, anger, envy, greed, and I'm not even realizing I am becoming more and more entangled because I'm just running, 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 and I'm not even sure why I'm running and for what I'm running. And whom am I listening to? My material mind and material intelligence. What am I doing with my life? So when knowledge is covered, one is simply running without any goal, running very fast, very fast. Why are you running so fast? I want to get to the destination. Where do you want to get to? I don't know. Then why are you running? Don't disturb me. I'm very happy running behind these things at a very high speed. So that person is called crazy. You go out, you get your car, and you start driving at the speed of 80, and you are on a highway, and your spouse asks, where are we going? And you say, well, I don't know. Just keep going. No, but there should be some goal, right? But where are you going? What do you want to get from there? No, I don't care. Just keep running. So that is craziness. So one should know what is my goal. That comes from the understanding of who I am, who is God, what is my goal, why I'm here, in spite of having all the luxuries and wealth and comfort and every possible situation, why I'm still having suffering here and there, why I'm still not happy. One should question. That's what distinguishes human life from animal life. Destroyer of self realization. We will just read 5 more minutes and then we will end. Um, Certainly, we need one more session to cover because right now we have not come to the solution. Right now, we are just trying to understand the intensity of this desire and the effect of this desire. Um, One effect we saw, the knowledge is lost, discrimination power is lost, and one is like completely engrossed in the sway of passionate desires. No Krishna in picture, nothing. I don't care about anything, but that's all I want. And we throw everything out of the window, all that we have heard and we have realized. Then lust is a destroyer of self realization. Lust, Prabhupada says in 3.41 Bhagavad Gita, lust is a desire of destroyer of knowledge and self realization. It is lust only which induces the living entity to remain entangled in material world, something we have discussed. So a person who is running after lusty desires cannot be happy, um, cannot progress in his spiritual life, and cannot gain knowledge and realization. Or if at all he is gaining anything, he is on a very superficial platform. He lacks deep realizations. This material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to conditioned soul to fulfill these lustful propensities. Prabhupada said, what is the but why material creation? Because we desired ichha dvesha samuthena. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we develop some desires. Why is Krishna enjoying? I want to enjoy. Ichha, dvesh, envy came. I also want to be the enjoyer. Envy is actually that I am the enjoyer. That is a sign of envy. And it reflects when somebody else enjoys something I don't enjoy, then envy becomes even stronger. Why is others enjoying? Why? I am the enjoyer. This principle is the root cause of envy. So ichha dvesh, envy comes from ichha only, from desire only envy comes. The desire of being a bhokta. Krishna says in spiritual world there is only one bhokta, Krishna. And we enjoy more if we give up our independent desire and try to please Krishna. Then we actually become peaceful and we actually become happy. But if we struggle to enjoy independent of Krishna, then it just remains a struggle. Krishna says the result is opposite. Dukhalyam ashashvatam. So this material world is created by the Lord. Why Krishna created this material world? We desired and we envied. Ichha dvesha. Um, Jesus Christ gives an example of forbidden apple. Um, God told Adam and Eve, don't eat this forbidden apple, you can eat anything else. And Adam and Eve said, all right. Adam and Eve were not wearing any clothes, and they never thought there is any need to wear clothes. They had no discrimination between material things. So the snake came and the snake told Eve, you fool, you know why God is not asking you to eat this apple? Because if you eat the apple, you will become like God. God is very competitive. He does not want you to become like him. So I tell you, eat this apple and you will become God. So Eve became contaminated by bad association. And Eve told Adam that we should eat the forbidden apple. Adam said, no, God told us not to eat. Then Eve said, no, because then we can enjoy like God. Why should God enjoy? We want to enjoy. He doesn't want to enjoy. That's why he asked us not to eat this forbidden apple. And Adam said, oh, really? This is another bad association. Bad association propagates more bad association. So Adam and Eve decided to eat the forbidden apple. And then they looked around each other. They looked at animals. They looked at themselves, and they thought, why we are naked? And they made some tree bark dresses for themselves. They covered themselves up. And then this is a story Jesus Christ told. It's actually Ichha Dvesha Samuthena, but because the people during the time of Jesus Christ's teachings were very low consciousness, they could not understand the pure teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So Jesus Christ presented in the form of these stories, Adam, Eve, and Forbidden Apple, in a very childish way. They seem like very childish story, but the essence is the same. Srila Prabhupada said there is no difference between Christianity and Krishna consciousness. Jesus Christ was a pure devotee of Krishna, Prabhupada said. But unfortunately, the teachings have been misinterpreted many times. So the original essence is kind of becoming more and more lost in in Bible, because Bible is edited so many times. So this story comes in the Bible, biblical story. So God came and God saw Adam and Eve trying to cover themselves with tree bark. And God asked, how do you have the discrimination that this is a male body, this is a female body, and this shame? How do you got all these things? They're not there in spiritual world. They're not there. It's unbelievable to understand. I mean, not that they are all very cultured people, but there is no lust there. There is no impurities there. So Adam and Eve were trying to cover themselves up, and God said, well, you both must have eaten the forbidden apple. Um, and then God cursed them that you fall down in the material existence. And he created earth. So there is, like, Bible explains in a very childish form. So God desired, let there be earth, and earth appeared. God desired, let there be sky. Second day, and second day sky appeared. So in 7 day God created the creation. But if you read Shrimad Bhagavatam, there's a detailed description of Mahavishnu entering into the cloud of Mahatattva, like, very high, deep spiritual concept. And from the pores of Mahavishnu, by his breathing, universes came out. And the Lord expanded as Garbhodaksai Vishnu, and from his navel on a lotus flower, Lord Brahma, who was the original creator. And there is such a detailed description. But if you go to biblical references, although the principle remains the same, the concept remains the same, but presented in a way understanding to a man who cannot understand scriptures. Jesus Christ, it is described, he went to Jagannath Puri and got his teachings from there. So uh, God created in 7 days, and the he cursed snake that you will just slither on your belly and you will go through lot of suffering. And he cursed the Eve that your class will have monthly suffering because you heard, and he cursed Adam that you will have to really struggle to earn and really struggle to maintain yourself. So like that, God cursed everyone. This bigger story, nothing like this actually happened. But the point is clear. Ichha Dvesha Samuthena. So material facility is created by Lord for two purposes. One purpose is those who are conditioned souls, they can fulfill their desires because Yayathamam Prapantam Tateva Bhajamiham. As we approach, I reciprocate accordingly. Another desire was, um, those who want to come back, um, they can take up Krishna consciousness and then they can come back also. Otherwise, others can keep going on. All right. Another effect is anger. So self realization is not possible. Knowledge becomes lost. One becomes angry. And lust give rise to anger. When a person is in mode of goodness, anger will not come. If anger comes, it is transcendental anger. It is not anger because my desires were not fulfilled. my passionate desires were not fulfilled. Not that kind of anger, but it's a transcendental anger, like Hanuman, like that. When lust and hankering are unsatisfied, the element of Krodha appears, which is the formidable enemy of the conditioned soul. Okay. Krishna and his pastimes are not influenced by lust. So we will see that how Krishna and his pastimes are never influenced by lust in our next week. So that's all. It's almost 6:26. Uh, I don't know if anyone has any question. Anyone would like to ask anything? Okay. I think we miss Kundan Prabhu, but I see everyone else. Alright. Okay. So my obeisances to all of you. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः आनन्दकोटिवैष्णवेन्द्र की जय। जय प्रभुपाद। Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hari. Kundan
Hare
Prabhu
Krishna.
is outside. He cannot join.